Thanks to conferencefora for accepting my paper. And today I'll go to the presentation. And myself is Nazmul Ansari, doctoral programming engineering, science and technology at National University of Science and Technology, Taiwan. And my co-author name is Dr. G. A. Porter, Assistant Professor, College of Engineering, National Kaohsiung University of Science and Technology, Taiwan. Here is the content of my slide. Today, I'll talk about purpose of this presentation, introduction, study background, wastewater from the food industry features, demonstrative features of effluent from the food technology, characteristics of effluent from various food industries, aspects and difficulties, problem and solution, conclusion, reference, question answer session. Also, I'll provide my contact address. Purpose of this presentation is protect our environment, reduce effluent treatment plant ETP maintenance cost, to motivate companies to comply with the environmental regulation. According to global studies, 1.2 billion people lack access to clean water, and 2.6 billion have very poor or no sanitation, and millions of people die every year because of contaminated water supplies or other health problems related to water. And among growing population and subsequently raising industrialization, water-related problems are predicted to quickly become much worse in the upcoming years. New sources to clean water are urgently needed and can be supplied from many origins such as dams, rainwater, groundwater, wastewater, and saline water. And here is the study background. The food industry plays a crucial role in Bangladesh, like 12.92% of GDPs. And water is required for a variety of functions in food processing plants, such as including moving items, washing, processing, and cleaning. This results in the production of wastewater effluent, which is normally undescribable due to the high concentration of suspended particle, bacteria, coloring agents, salts, oils, fats, chemical oxygen demand, COD, and BOD. The main barriers to attaining a time and cost-effective treatment to effluent are insufficient availability of materials for effluent treatment plant in local market due to high chemical cost and high import tax, 26%. And wastewater from the food industry features. The food industry, along with textile and oil as well other sector, has been identified as a major water consumer and wastewater generator. Water is consumed during the processing of raw materials as well as during washing, heating, cooling stages of various food manufacturing process. As a result, each industry generates a high volume of organic rich wastewater effluent, salts, fat, dyestuff, grease, oils, chemical oxygen demand, total suspended solid, and total dissolved solid are example of biological chemical oxygen BOD. Food processing effluent contain complex chemicals that are difficult to extract. According to these studies, demanding efficient treatment studies, physical chemical system, absorption, phantom oxidation, ozone microalgae cultivation, plasma microbial fuel cells, etc., have all been used to treat food industry wastewater. Here you can see this slide is for demonstrate feature of effluent from the food industry. Right side belonging a typical value, and left side belonging a parameter that are commonly assessed, like a pH, BOD, COD, total suspended solid, total nitrogen, total phosphorus, and oil and grease. And right side containing the standard value, like pH standard value is 5.5 to 9.0, biological oxygen BOD is 50 ppm, COD is 250 ppm, total suspended solid 50 milligram per liter, total nitrogen 10 milligram per liter, and total phosphorus 2 milligram per liter. Oil and grease also contain 10 milligram per liters is the standard value. And this slide containing characteristics of the wastewater major component and industries. You can see here that dairy, fruits, olive mills, and seafood slaughterhouse. Wastewater major component is protein, detergents, lactose and lipids, carbohydrates, mineral, nitrogen, phosphorus, and salts. And olive mills, wastewater major component is phenol, pectins, sugars, fat, oils, salts, and carbohydrates. And you can see here the characteristics of BOD and references included. Aspect and difficulties. The direct discharge of large amount of industrial effluent and food wastewater effluent into the natural environment has serious hazardous consequence for human health and the ecosystem. Membrane can be employed as a long-term wastewater treatment solution, but several challenges continue to obstruct their efficient processing and limit their utilization. Membrane degradation has long been the fundamental problem that many research studies have suggested to solve. Considering most of the initiatives, one often difficult element of adopting membrane technology is fouling control, which must be resolved through the development of unique solution. And here you can find some problem and solution. And we can reduce the chemical cost, encourage companies to engage in environment protection activities, motivate companies to comply with the environmental regulation, reduce effluent treatment plant material cost, and imported tax, as I mentioned earlier, 26% high import tax in my country. So we can reduce the import tax, frequent monitor them, the companies, and the government should take strong action of protect the environment. And here is the conclusion of my paper. In several water-related applications, nanofiber membrane have demonstrated promising results. High porosity, high specific surface area ratio, low density, and superior mechanical strength are among electrospun nanofiber membrane key properties. And ETPs are unavailable in local market in my country, and the import tax is high, and the reason for the enforcement failure are insufficient resources such as knowledge, human resources, and funds, inadequate coordination among concerned, low willingness of companies to meet environmental compliance requirements, and inadequate monitoring to enforcement by government authorities. Here are the reference of my papers. And if you have any question, please, you can ask any question about my PPT.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Nazmul Ansari, for your wonderful research work. Please do share your details out there in the chat box. We can get in touch and discuss more for the participants to get in touch with you. Thank you for now.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good research work.
Good afternoon. This is Iqbal. I am a PhD scholar at Alia University, Kolkata, India. And today I am going to share my work on interaction of urease. Sorry, my video is off, right? Yeah, so my work on interaction of urease DOPC hybrid system at air, water, and air solid interfaces. So this is a brief outline of my talk. At first, I'm going to talk very briefly about the background and motivation behind my work. And then I'm going to talk about what technique I have used for this research study, what are the objectives. And finally, I'm going to tell about the results I obtained, and I'm going to conclude my talk. So human cell membranes, particularly prokaryotic cell membranes, they consist of this plasma membrane. The cell membrane is a plasma membrane. So the microscopic view of this, you can see on the right side. So basically this is bilayer of these amphiphilic molecules, where you have this hydrophilic head and hydrophobic tail. And in between them, biomolecules such as proteins, enzymes, other nutrients, they basically reside inside the cell. So we are going to study that how these other biomolecules interact with the cell membrane and how we can use the knowledge, the information for generating some drug delivery vehicle or to develop some biosensors. So the question is how we can mimic a similar system in our lab. So basically amphiphilic molecules, they provide us this opportunity to copy the cell membrane model in our laboratory. So you can see here on the right side, this is the structure of a phospholipid named DOPC. So we call this phosphate group hydrophilic, and the hydrocarbon, long chain hydrocarbon, this is basically hydrophobic. Hydrophilic means this one will easily attach with the water molecule, whereas the hydrophobic chain, it will basically repel from the water molecule. So let's say we take an amphiphilic molecule and we dissolve this in a proper solution and spread that on a aqueous surface. So basically the blue portion, this is made of Teflon. This is what we call Langmuir-Blodgett thin film deposition system. And if we very control way, if we just spread the amphiphilic molecules from the solution with the help of a syringe onto this water surface. So basically the molecules stay like this, as you can see in the screen. So basically the hydrophilic molecules, they get attached with the water, and the hydrophobic tails, they remain in the upward direction. And we have the possibility to compress this barrier, basically to change the surface area, and we can also expand the surface area. So basically when we compress the surface area, these molecules come closer to each other, and at a particular instant, they get very organized. So let me, let's say the characteristic what we get from here, we can record this kind of graph in our laptop with the system. So basically this gives us a curve between surface pressure and area per molecule. So here, as we add some biomolecules here at the water, what happens is the surface tension of the water changes. Let's say we add any impurity to the water, its surface change will change. And the change of surface pressure, we will get it as a, the change in surface tension, we'll get as a surface pressure in our laptop. And you can see that's why like the unit of the surface pressure is millinewton per meter. Basically, this is the unit of the surface tension. And as you can see, when the area per molecule is much more, then the molecules are far apart from each other. As we compress the barrier, the area per molecule decreases and we get more surface pressure. That's why, I mean, the surface tension decreases, and as well we get the increased surface pressure. So keeping this in mind, at first we have explored pure urease. This is basically a metalloenzyme protein used as a biosensor, clinically used in biosensors to detect the quantity of urea in our samples, in our urine samples. So our motivation is to develop urease-based biosensor, as well as this study will provide us with deep insights of how proteins behave at air-water interface and how they interact with the biomolecules such as DOPC, phospholipid biomolecules. And moreover, we also going to explore how we can make very thin films, let's say of nanometer level, angstrom level, with this urease DOPC system. So as you can see, urease, this protein is a water soluble. The red one is the water soluble, and the green one is basically a mixture of urease and DOPC in the volumetric ratio of 20:1. So when you decrease the area per molecule, we get this kind of graph. And from this a surface pressure versus area per molecule curves, we have calculated its compressibility. Basically, it gives us information about the elasticity of the components at the air-water interface. So you can see the elasticity of urease is very less compared to the urease DOPC mix system. And it is evident from other studies as well as our previous studies that when you mix a phospholipid with this kind of proteins, it makes a very stable bilayer at the air-water interface. And then we can basically transfer this URIS DOPC system to a thin film to be used as a biosensor. So what we have done, we have prepared Langmuir-Blodgett thin films with this URIS DOPC mix system, and then characterized it with atomic force microscopy. The image one, it shows URIS DOPC mix system at a hydrophilic surface. Basically, I'm not going into details how we make the silicon surface hydrophilic. So in the hydrophilic surface, you can see that this protein, the round things, these are the proteins. So native proteins looks like this. And then I have also kept here a 3D representation for better visualization. So what we have explored that in a hydrophilic surface, the protein retains its native structure. But as soon as we have deposited the same thing on a hydrophobic surface, the image 2, it seems that the protein does not retains its native structure. It denaturates. And that's why you will see the amalgamation of proteins like this they will just form cluster-like structure. Then we have explored the hydrophilic silicon surface at temperature of 120 degrees Celsius. Here also we have found the protein denaturation. Here you can see the proteins retain the structure, sorry. But when we raise the temperature from room temperature to 120, they got denatured even in hydrophilic surface. And then in the next slide, we have explored what happens in the hydrophobic surface. So as in hydrophobic surface, the proteins are already denatured. So heating it does not change the structure much, because when a protein is denatured, then basically you don't characterize it. You can't tell what are the properties of protein without measuring it. So then we found in hydrophobic surface, the denaturation due to this hydrophobicity and this temperature are almost same. We did not find any substantial difference between those. And these are my conclusions of my work. So basically, we have found that URIs bound with DOPC bilayers very firmly at the air-water interface, and the protein gets denatured rigorously on the hydrophobic surface, and the temperature denaturates also happens whenever whether the protein is in native form or it is entrapped in a lipid matrix. These are basically the acknowledgements, and thank you.
Thank you, Iqbal, for your wonderful research work and good topic also. Nice, we'll be in touch. Please to share your details out there in the chat box. We will get in touch.
Sure,
Okay.
sure. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for giving me the floor for presenting my work. I will not go to that much details. Just I will be going to present my work as the time limit is very low. So my topic of research is the estimation of permeability of a porous ceramic tile, and me, Abul Barkat Muhammad Rafiqul Hassan, is presenting the research. So this is the outline which I will be following throughout my presentation. So let's go to the introduction. So the ceramic tiles is a porous material which has a lot of applications, like it is used in liquid and gas filter to support the catalysts. It is used to loop heat pipes for the dissipation of heat. It is also used in a wick for air freshener, and obviously it is used mostly in preparing the residential tiles. And our research is mainly focused on the residential ceramic tiles. So for a porous medium, it has several properties which are important for the characterization of this material, and also these properties are important for determining how the fluid is traveling throughout this material. So one of the property is the permeability. So that's why the estimation of this permeability is important, and there is no explicit function which will measure this permeability. That's why we are focusing on of a ceramic tile. So let's go to a little bit background. So this background is you can see here that the water table, from the water table and groundwater, the water travels to the Vedas unsaturated or Vedas zone, in which is characterized, which is got by this Richards equation. And one of the parameter of this equation is the permeability, and that's why we need it. Like when water falls on the top surface of a tile, it needs the permeability to be known for the characterization of that. So for determining of this permeability, we have adapted theoretical model and experimental model, and we tested that. So for the theoretical model, the permeability is can be determined by a equation. It's like it is a function of the square of the effective diameter of the material, and is also a function of the porosity. Porosity is how densely the material is packed, something like that. And the effective diameter, for determining the effective diameter, we made a scanning electron micrography, and therefore after getting the micrograph, we transformed it to a binary picture, and analyzing the picture, we could be able to get the effective diameter, there are the pores, and the effective and the porosity of this material, which is we can see in the slide. And the function of the porosity are different for different models. Different researcher has given some models, and therefore we inserted this porosity to this model and effective diameter here in the main equation, and we determined the permeability of the porous ceramic tile. So this was our theoretical study. And next we did two experiments. One is the mercury intrusion porosimetry method, where a mercury was forced to intrude through the ceramic tile, and with the increase of pressure, it can intrude the smaller holes. As you can see here in the equation, which is the Washburn equation, the effective diameter or pore diameter, which is inversely proportional to the pressure. Like with the increase of more pressure, it will intrude to the lesser amount of the pores. And we got those results. And the permeability of a porous material can be determined from Cade's and Thompson's model, which you can see here. Here, all the things is permeability constant. We determined from the experiment. Then we determined the characteristics length, which is again derived from the Washburn equation. And from the experiment, we get the threshold pressure to be like this. And putting here, we get the effective characteristics length. And finally, we get the conductivity formation factor. Here you can see that sigma by sigma naught, which we can get from this graph. Details we can see in our paper. And by doing the rigorous analysis, we could able to get the permeability, and which is in the order of 10 to the power minus 16. And the third method we adapted for the measurement of the permeability is the falling head permeability method, which you can see that for the determination of the falling head permeability method, we have to use this equation where H1 is the initial height of the liquid at the initial time, and H2 is the final height of the liquid after time t. And we can calculate all these heights. Different trials were made, and the mu, rho, these are the properties of the liquid which is falling through the specimen. Like for our case, is the ceramic tile, is the porous medium. So this mu, rho, and g, these are the properties of the water. To be to mention that we used water to test the permeability of our specimen. And in the right side, you can see that the experimental setup we developed. And finally, we found the permeability for this experimental setup, like falling head permeability. It is 6.9 something into, and again, it is in the order of 10 to the power minus 16. So now that we can compare the results for the theoretical models, we can see this, and for the experimental results, almost all the result section gives us the permeability of the ceramic to be the range of 10 to the power minus 16. And only the outlier is the chains model, which gave us 10 to the power minus 14 because of the porosity function, which is higher than for the chains model. And the difference between the Koloni-Karman and the other model is only 4%. And the permeability again can be compared with the theoretical Davis model to the falling head method. And we can tell that this permeability is reasonable, and we can use it to the Richards equation to determine the saturation distribution in the ceramic porous materials. So these are the references which has been used for the work. And yeah, thank you very much for giving me the floor, and thank you very much for your patience hearing. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Abdul Warab, for your wonderful research work. Please do share your details out there in the chat box so that people can get in touch.
In the name of God, my presentation is about the effects of exercise therapy in preventing falls through improving balance in patients with knee osteoarthritis. In this slide, we see a patient with knee osteoarthritis. Also, we see damaging of joint surfaces in the knee in this picture. At first, we can say about definition of knee osteoarthritis. Osteoarthritis is a chronic and degenerative joint disease. Also, osteoarthritis is related to proprioception disorder, reduced balance and function. Also, knee osteoarthritis uses many psychological, social, economic, and physical problems in these patients. Also, we can say about many treatments in this disease. In this disease, many treatments are used to increase the balance in patients with knee osteoarthritis. However, no study has been conducted so far to examine the effects of exercise therapy in preventing falls through improving balance in patients with knee osteoarthritis. So, in this slide, we talk about methods and materials. Design of this study is one blind randomized controlled trial. The patients participated in this study. Also, two groups were in this study: balance exercises and strengthening exercise. Inclusion and exclusion criteria were in this study. Both sexes with chronic knee pain for at least 3 months. Also, approval of knee osteoarthritis and lack of history of injury. Exclusion criteria also was a history of cardiovascular disease, osteoporosis, physiotherapy intervention for the past 6 months. Also, neurological disease was as exclusion criteria. In this slide, we talk about measurement tool. Measurement tool was in this study bidex balance system, and the measurement performed in 3 directions, including overall stability index, anterior-posterior stability index, and medial-lateral stability index. Also, trials were performed with closed and open eyes. Intervention were in this study balance and strengthening exercise, also intervention performed for 3 weeks and 5 sessions per week and 15 sessions total. Balance exercise were standing on one leg, stepping forward and backward with the with the left leg for 3 repetitions, mini squat for 10 times, and stepping forward and backward with right leg 3 times, and the mini squat stepping to left side. Mini squat stepping to right side. Also, strengthening exercises where quadriceps muscle strength exercise or muscle setting. These exercises were performed for 3 sets and 10 repetitions. So in next section, we can talk about results of this study. In the results, we talk about in tri-group comparison. Inter-group comparison showed in a balance exercise group in the static state or OSI or overall stability index and API and OSI on the inward leg in closed eyes were improved. Also in the dynamic state, OSI, API, and MLI on 2 legs in open and closed eyes were improved. About intra-group comparison in the strengthening exercise group, we can say that in the static state, OSI on 2 legs in open and closed eyes improved. Also in the dynamic state, OSI and MLI on 2 legs in open and closed eyes improved. Finally, about intergroup comparison, we earn improvement in anterior-posterior stability index in the dynamic situation on the involved leg in the closed eyes. So in this section, we can say about discussion of this study. First study is that Hannah et al. Showed consistent results with the results of our study. The reason of these results was improvement in the improvement in static balance indices can be attributed to the effects of movement therapy, including the physiological effects, muscle strengthening. Another study was Holden et al. In this study, they earned inconsistent results with results of our study. The reason of these results was lack of improvement, maybe due to that more than 8 weeks are needed for improvement in balance. So another study, as Monica et al. Study, showed consistent results with the results of our study. The reason of these results was improvement was due to the useful impacts of increased muscle strength. Finally, in the conclusion section, we earned the be useful results. So results of this study showed there is no difference between both groups, balance and stringent exercise, except for anterior-posterior stability index. Thank you for your attention to my presentation.
Well, thank you, Nagus, for your wonderful presentation. So, yeah.
You're welcome.
So please do share your details out there, like email address, and your university, and your title out there in the chat box, so that we can get in touch with you. Right. So, yeah. I'll now go ahead and call the next presenter.
My name is Kyungmin Kim from GSAIM Chungang University in South Korea. So here's the agenda for today's presentation. First, introduction about general art, which is traditional versus modern. And second will be the work production of my own. Basically, how to make my artwork. Next will be the exhibition of the work, the information of it. Last will be Last will be the conclusion of my paper. What is art and what is the general thought about creating art? Traditionally, art was recognized something only human beings can do. However, time passed. Now art has various form and there is no more distinguishment of the artist. In the last 2 years, AI image generation models have made remarkable progress and various opinions regarding them are emerging across the industry. In August 2022, video game designers entry won first place in the digital art category at the Colorado State Fair art competition. The work in question was created by Midjourney, an AI image generating model. The judges were unaware of this and awarded the prize. The controversy began to intensify when the creator later revealed on social media that the work was generated by an AI. The emerging of AI image generation models has been perceived as a threat to existing artists, and the negative stance toward AI generation model has become increasingly entrenched with the rise of movements such as No to AI at the end of 2022. In this study, we focused on a positive direction toward the use of AI generating models. Through New Era, which consists of the product of an AI image generation model, we seek to discuss AI art. There's a lot of generating models. AI can be applied text, image, videos, 3D modeling, music, so on. And now they've been developing. General work progress we used. First, select right model generator and fine-tune the prompt text you want to share or express, and set the details to control the models and put the right prompt, and finally you got the result image. For first stage, select the right model. So we had to find the fit one. AI image generating models generate image of different styles depending on the dataset, algorithm, and function used of training. Moreover, the user can adjust parameter values to change styles. DALL-E 2, which is made by OpenAI, one of the famous company, developed AI generator. Midjourney, which was used for the winning competition mentioned earlier, and can be generated in the Discord community. Stable Diffusion, which was released after Disco Diffusion, comfortable to use with API interface. New Era was created using Disco Diffusion. This model was selected because it can output sequence images and images of various styles in one image. Disco diffusion requires users to perform a total of 4 steps: setting values for AI models, setting animations, inputting text prompts, and the output the process picture on right side. After entering the desired resolution, the AI model inputs the step value to produce a detailed result by taking the output image through several steps. The default value is set at 250, and a value between 250 and 300 provides ideal details. But if it exceeds beyond 206 step value, adding further details becomes meaningless. Cut batch is an integer value in which details are input by cutting the output image a certain number of times. A higher value results in a higher video quality. However, video random access memory uses increases as well. Value from 4 to 8 take a reasonable amount of time, which is depending on users, and the output details were also of a value that was not disappointing. Showing on the table above, the value of 6 shows more excellent detail than 1. When the basic AI image generation model setting is completed, the output image is input through the text prompt. Users can freely write text using their imagination, and satisfying images can be produced when the text pertains to the strengths of disco diffusion shown in the table above. The strengths of disco diffusion are landscape, portraits, single subject, and abstract stuff. In New Era, the prompt was written specify the highest quality and detail value were provided for all text prompts. Using the prompt 8K resolution, photorealistic conceptual art, immaculate, highly detailed render. Disco diffusion was provided the maximum quality and every detail that it could drive. By dividing all items such as form, props, and lighting, a text prompt that was closely related to the expected result by the user was creating an input. In addition, the text value regarding how a specific word or value will be drawn and which style was also creating in various ways. In this case, several paintings by various artists was borrowed. We put various artist names such as Yoshitaka Amano, John Fra Bossarto, Thomas Kincaid, Ellen Jower. So this is the final work of On. In the New Era, this artwork is scheduled to be exhibited online at the Advanced International Film Festival hosted by Jungwon University Graduate School of Advanced Image Science, Multimedia, and film from November 3rd, 2022 to October 31st, 2023, and can be viewed on the AIA website, aiaf.com. So first conclusion, we sought to provide an opportunity to look forward to the development and various possibilities of an AI artist who can collaborate with humans. The disco diffusion model used to produce the work in this research paper is an image generation model capable of sequence images, and images were generated by finely adjusting several parameter values. So for the future research, we'll explore the expansion of the both AI image generation models and will conduct projects under the theme of collaborative use of other tools. Thank you for caring.
Hello, hello, all the respected authors. Today Yashwant Singh, with three of my co-authors, have initiated a comparative study on various movie recommendation system. We are from JSS Academy of Technical Education, Noida, and we have our ultimate aim is to create a very efficient and suitable movie recommendation system. So here goes the PPT, and the contents of the PPT are like the first will be what will be our objectives, followed by the introduction, then the project flow. Then after we'll just look into some literature surveys, followed by the conclusion. So our main aim is to evaluate the most efficient algorithm for our movie recommendation system that we'll be making in the future. So in order to achieve our aim, we have thoroughly studied multiple 30-40 movie recommendation systems, and we have performed a comparative study on all of them. And our paper includes the observations and insights that we perceived from those various studies. So here comes the introduction. So here's the basic introduction of what the recommendation system is. So I hope all of you have used an e-commerce site. All of you have listened to songs online. All of you would have watched the movies on Netflix. So whenever you watch any video on, let's say you are watching any video on YouTube, then at the bottom there comes the suggestions. So those suggestions are what the main aim of recommendation system is. So the recommendation system is very important, as it will increase the business of the various organization, and it will also increase the user interaction in the systems in the organizations. So let's take an example of a recommendation system. So let's say a user buys an Apple smartphone from Amazon. Then the best recommendation that we can make is the Apple Watch to him. That's what the recommendation system does. So a person buying an Apple smartphone is most vulnerable to buy an Apple Watch. So that's the nice recommendation to them. That's the accurate recommendation to him or her. So that's how the recommendation system works. So here's some visuals on it. So a user, if he or she buys, likes, or watch any movie, or buys any let's say a smartphone, then that user's feedback, let it be positive or negative, that feedback goes into the recommender system, and that recommender system then creates a recommendation list which provides the recommendation, all the recommendation to the users. So there are various ways of making that recommendation system. The basic model of any recommendation system consists of two techniques. So the one is the collaborative filtering, and the next one is content-based filtering. So what a collaborative filtering does is it just it find out the similarity between different users, and it find out the set of users which are interested in some particular type of product or articles. So if one user buys or watches any movies, then the other users who is similar to him or her is also suggested the same kind of movie that the other user was watching. So this is what the collaborative filtering is, and the content-based filtering is what it's basically totally on the specific user. So let's say there's one single person, and the suggestions would be made on the basis of his personal history, or the whatever he has watched or whatever he has bought. So it's basically totally on that particular user. This is what content based filtering is. And there's another model which is the combination of both. So this is all about the filtering techniques. And in the future, when we'll be creating our final system, the recommendation system, it will that will be the flow of the works that we'll do. So the first thing that we'll do is we have to collect the data. So we have decided that we'll collect the data from the Cavill, and we'll also import some data from Wikipedia also. And then comes the data pre-processing. So when we collect the data, it's not very suitable to just feed it to any algorithm. We have to pre-process it so that it becomes suitable for an algorithm to process it. So once the data processing is done, then we'll feed that data into our model which we discussed earlier, like the various recommendation systems that we discussed earlier. Then once the model is created, then we'll just create a website so that we have a nice user experience. And once everything is done, then we'll just deploy the model. After combining both the model and the website, then we'll deploy our recommendation system so that the users can use it. And here is the literature survey. So we have, I'll just not go very deep into it. I'll just give short insights to you all since we are short on time. So you can have a look here that some of the systems have used collaborative techniques. Some of them have used content and collaborative, that's hybrid. And some of them have used here also hybrid is used. And next you can say that you can see that there's content based, there's history based recommendation system. So after studying these are I have included only 5 papers here, but we have gone through various 30-40 papers, and we have concluded that the best and the most suited for our need, the best filtering technique would be content based with supervised learning. And we will perform that content based filtering with the help of cosine similarity measure. And the Levenshtein distance method would be, we will use Levenshtein distance in conjunction with the cosine similarity measure, so that we can get a better accuracy and we can just recommend, in a much better way. So once this filtering is done, then we'll also be adding a sentiment evaluation in our project. So sentiment evaluation is, let's say a user provides a review of a particular movie, then we will just find out whether it's positive or negative. So we'll also create that sentiment evaluation model with the help of stop word, TF-ID vectorizer, and multinomial naive Bayes. So that's all about our project and our recommendation system. I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your wonderful presentation, sir.
The topic that I chose for this conference was luminol-based glucose detection using smartphone camera. I hope I'm audible and visible.
Yes, yes.
So I'm from Pune, India. So the idea was to detect glucose in a sample and eventually in blood using a smartphone camera. We usually have small devices which are available in the market. So I thought I can replace this the already existing devices with a smartphone, since it is already available with everyone. So the idea was to, so this is the overall reaction, a chemical reaction. So what happens is we have glucose, and in presence of glucose oxidase, which is an enzyme, it produces gluconic acid and hydrogen peroxide, which is H2O2. And this hydrogen peroxide can oxidize luminol, which is a chemiluminescent dye. In the sense, it produces its own glow when it is oxidized. So one would expect in presence of hydrogen peroxide and luminol will get a glow, and that glow is actually directly proportional to the presence of the concentration of hydrogen peroxide. So that was the whole scheme, meaning that more the concentration of glucose, more glow will one would observe, and that is how one can detect the presence of glucose or the concentration of glucose. So I made a microfluidic device. So the required sample volume was around 1 microliters, that is 10 to the power minus 6 liters. So we used 2 nitrocellulose discs, which we coated with the sample. Here the sample was actually you can say that was a glucose, sorry, the glucose oxidase and hydrogen. These two enzymes, horse radish peroxidase and glucose oxidase, were the sample here, and the other disc was coated with luminol. And this coated disc were then lyophilized and placed on the microfluidic device. And on that device, then we inserted the glucose sample, which reacted with the enzyme and with hydrogen peroxide that was generated, and therefore we got a glow, and that glow was captured with a smartphone camera. And with the images that we got, we developed a Python-based scheme using OpenCV library, and we were able to detect the glow that was there. So this is a microfluidic device that we constructed, and the white thing that you see here are the discs which are inserted, which are coated with enzyme and luminol. This is a 3D printed box which we use for clicking images, since we require very dark environment there. Any stray light that entered interfered with our reading, so we had to develop this box. The usual nowadays we have cameras which we have manual mode in it, where we can set the shutter speed to around 8 seconds. So all these images we captured were based on, the settings were kept the same, right? So to prove that this idea works or not, first we just did simple reaction using luminol and hydrogen peroxide. So the concentration of luminol was kept same, and hydrogen peroxide concentration was changed. And here we can see that as hydrogen peroxide concentration increases, we got an increase in glow, which is linearly increasing with concentration. So that was the idea, and all this data was captured using a smartphone camera. But we also saw that the glow reduced with time because the available hydrogen peroxide was consumed by luminol. So we could see that with a time of around 1 minute, the glow completely dropped down. So I captured these images within 20 to 30 seconds. I kept 20 seconds as a bench, as a limit for me to click, so that I get a good data. On the right, you can see that there are 2 images. These are basically the faint dot below is less concentration of glucose. So here what has happened is the sample has reacted with enzyme. The glucose has reacted with enzymes, and the enzyme has after the reaction, it has produced hydrogen peroxide. This hydrogen peroxide reacted with luminol, which created a blue colored luminescence. And as we can see that there is increasing glow. So low concentration meaning low glucose, low glow means low glucose concentration, and high glow means high glucose concentration. So on the left, you can see the data of the same, that as the glucose concentration increases, the average pixel density increases. All of this was processed in Python. So if you have a data and if you have an image and you process and you submit it to a server or a computer, and after processing, you might get some data based on this. You will directly get the concentration of glucose in the sample. So the idea of this is limited. The work has been done up till here only. The idea was to have a glucose, have a blood sample. Then using that blood sample, we are trying to analyze the glucose concentration in the sample. So this could be very helpful in patients who are like diabetic, And instead of buying expensive, I would say, devices or dedicated devices for glucose measuring, we could easily do this with the camera, smartphone camera that we have with ourselves. So this is my work that I have done. That's it from my side. Thank you.
Good afternoon to all attendees. First, I want to pay gratitude to South Asian Research Conference for giving me such opportunity to represent my thesis work. I'm Bilas Chakraborty from Joshua University of Science and Technology, and my subject is computer science and engineering, and this is my paper ID. I am presenting my paper, and there are 4 co-authors of my paper: Romana Rahman Ima, Assistant Professor, Joshua University of Science and Technology, Tajul Islam, SK Salahuddin Kwame, and Abu Rafi MD Jamal. Now, first, I want to highlight my contribution of my paper. First contribution or image recognition, and I have used 5 different architectures of convolutional neural network: ResNet 50, BZ16, AlexNet efficient, Net B2 and B3. Then I did compare with different CNN architecture results with each other, and then I got the final result. I used 2 different data sets here. First is the 64 data set. It is consists of almost 9,000 data set, 9,000 data. Then I use test data set, and it is my test data set is made for specifically this thesis work, and the accuracy of the 5 different architectures was 90 to 98%. Then why we have done this work? Handwritten word recognition has been done in almost every language in the world. As a Bengali and native speakers of Bengali, I wanted to do something for my language, so I did this work to increase the area of Bangla Bengali language. This method has been proposed, and the objectives are: handwritten word recognition plays an important role in preserving and documenting handwritten file. Due to the inefficiency of existing words, the handwritten word recognition methods has been proposed to increase the accuracy of the existing word. Handwritten word recognition. Then introduction. Mainly in the introduction part, I want to highlight 3 processes mainly I have done there. First, input handwritten image, then process the image, and giving output by recognizing with the help of transform learning. Now, what is the transform learning? Transform learning is a research problem in machine learning that focuses on storing knowledge gained while solving one problem and applying it to a different but related problem. For example, knowledge gained while learning to recognize cars could apply when trying to recognize trucks. Related work. I have highlighted here 3 different existing paper. The first paper name is Bangla Handwritten Word Recognition System using convolutional neural network, and I have and 3 different existing paper have been included there, and we can see the accuracy rate of here not much than 80 to 82% accuracy there. Now the proposed methodology. Now the proposed methodology of my word recognition is: first I use 2 data sets, DELA 64 and test. Then I pre-process. Then the pre-processing stage, I have pre-processed my data, and the pre-processing the part of the pre-processing stage is split data set into train and test. Then data normalization. Then data formatting for the model, and then I apply 5 different CNN-based architecture: B16, AlexNet, SNet, EfficientNet, B2, and EfficientNet B3. Then I compare accuracy with with these 5 architecture and select the best model, and then predict output. Data sets. There are 2 data sets have been used here: DELA 64 and test. Pre-processing step. Pre-processing stage consists of split images into 10 and test and then normalization. Now, pseudocode of ResNet 50. I have used 5 different architecture, and the pseudocode of ResNet 50. The image size of ResNet 50 is 224 by 224, and I use epochs 50 and the learning rate of ResNet 50, and this model is 0.001. The network architecture. Now, I have used different 5 architecture of CNN, and the main parts of CNN is input layer, then convolutional layer. Convolutional layer consists of activation function ReLU layer, and then output layer. The output layer is consist of flattened layers and flattened layers, dense layer, and then output layer. And in the output layer, the activation function sigmoid softmax activation function is used there. Now, architecture of V16, we can see here 2 convolutional layer in a row, and then max pooling layer, then 2 convolutional layer and a max pooling layer, and finally dense layer. Then ResNet 50 architecture is first convolutional layer, then normalization, then activation function, real activation function is being used here, and then max pooling layer, and finally before flattening layer, average pooling layer also been used. And then AlexNet architecture is first input layer, then convolution and max pooling layer there, and also after that convolution max pooling layer, and after that 3 convolutional layer is being used in a row, then fully connected layer, then softmax layer. Now, efficient net architecture. Now, efficient net is architecture where there are mainly from B0 to B7 8 architecture. Architecture has in the efficient net model, and it is worked in 3 terms, like depth, width, and resolution. It increase the depth, width, and resolution after old architecture. Like it use a function. It uses mainly a function to increase the depth, width, and resolution, and the function is alpha multiplied beta and gamma, and the value of alpha is 1.2, and the value of beta is 1.1, and the value of gamma is 1.15. That means if we increase the increase of value of alpha by 20%, then we have to increase the value of beta and gamma 10% and 10% and 15%. Then result and discussion. It is the bar chart for training accuracy, validation accuracy, and error rate. Now, if you see the validation accuracy, training accuracy, and validation loss for 5 architecture for the tested dataset, we can see that the best model is have ResNet 50, and efficient net is giving good accuracy rate and also good validation loss rate. And this is another bar chart for GILA 64 dataset, and that is the accuracy table there. And also you can see here ResNet 50 and efficient net B2 and B3 are giving good training accuracy and also validation loss. And that is the testing accuracy for dataset test, and that is training and validation. A graph of training and validation loss for GILA 64 dataset. And as we mentioned earlier, ResNet 50 is giving good results. So we included the training and validation loss graph. Then the best epochs is 49 there. In terms of validation and training loss and validation loss, that is also training and validation accuracy, or 49 epochs also giving good training and validation accuracy rate here. Now conclusion. We can also increase accuracy to increase the hidden layers and increase epochs. That is the limitations of my work. We can only use emails here, not text, videos not allow here. That is the difference. That's
thank you, Bilash, for your wonderful presentation. Please do share your details out there in the chat box so that participants can get in touch with you. Thank you.
Is it my details or my paper details?
Your paper details and your details also, like especially the email address, that's it. So one can get in touch with you to talk about the same.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Before I start, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Zara Zitra Vanita. I'm a bachelor sports student in Semarang State University. And my author is Dias Fajar Vidya Permana. My paper, it is about efforts to increase sport activities and character utilize traditional sport in Karangjati child-friendly village. Next. It's about the introduction. Nowadays, children are often spending their time on their smartphones, entertaining them by video games rather than doing physical activities. It happens a lot around my zone and village. As we know, to get the healthy body, we need physical activities as sport that be able to involve the human body. The examples, walking, running, and so on. And then in every country, I believe they have own traditional games. Traditional games are one of the wealth possessed by the Indonesian nation. Traditional sport games are games that contain sport and tradition. Games are an important form of entertainment for children and adults, through which children organize independently and they have important educational significance. Traditional sports are known as a vehicle for conveying character values. The right effort to organize and develop the character of the younger generation so that they have good superior and noble character is through the path of health, sport, physical education. Because in physical education, sport health has an important role in developing human potential, including mental potential. Sorry. So, because of that problem, the aim of this study was to increase sport activities and social traditional games to children in the Karangjati friendly village as character building in the children. The Committee for Folk Games and Traditional Sport called KPOT and Karangjati Village made collaboration to hold event for traditional games socialization. The event was held in 24 December 2022. In this sense, my purpose wanted to blow up about traditional games on media in case everybody can know it by their own social media and smartphone. These are the posters that they share to everybody that children in Karangjati could attend the event. About the method of research in study and field research with the observation method and anecdotal reports. The total sampling consists of 150 participants with male and female gender in the age range 3 until 12 years old. And then this research has sought approval from KPOT by asking permission from the chief organizer. This small research was conducted in the Karangjati village, Ungaran, Semarang district, Indonesia. Data collection technique by receiving, retrieving, and processing and obtain data while in the research location. The techniques used are participatory observation, interviews, and documentation. So, upon the collecting data, I use observation, interviews, and documentation with the help of journalistic club that I developed on my study. It's called The Science. The aim of my journalistic club to maintain all news about sport in my majority places around me and the courage and the courage physical activities for students. Here are the social media. If you have free time, you can check on the Instagram and the YouTube. We already reported about the socialization traditional games in the village and then for my university. Next. About result and explanation. So main character that contains in traditional games, which are religiosity. Because every time to starting the game, we used to pray in our religious, so it starts to about the religiosity. And then nationalism. All the games growing and made in Indonesia all remain about nationalism because it's one of form proud to be Indonesian. And then independence and manual cooperation. The on-game have on characteristic like games that have to be played individually or as team. Games such as Bakia as a team game and Egrang as individual game improve the independence and mutual cooperation character. The game will shown below. And then the last is integrity. It is about consistency. If the children can finish the game and do on training, it's called integrity. And then I'll show you about the types of traditional games in Indonesia, especially in Semarang district. First of all, it's called Serok Mancung. It is a game originally from Semarang Regency, which is made from the sheet of coconut trees. In the regulation that apply, it is played by two teams facing each other, where each team has 5 core players and 3 reserves, and is carried out in an open area or flat field. The planting of characteristic in Serok Mancung includes mutual cooperation and integrity. Mutual cooperation because there must be cooperation between a team to hit targets with very high accuracy, as well as integrity because the integrity of each individual can be seen from the consistency of behavior and speech. In sport, it requires coordination between hands and eyes. Besides that, accuracy on target is needed in this game. Second game is called Bakia. Bakia are made by 3 people using a tool that looks like long sandals, but it divided into 3 parts so that 3 people are needed to play the Bakia games. Cultivating characters in the Bakia game is very complex because there must be cooperative cooperation between hands, mouth, and minds between teams. If there is a slightest mistake in the pronunciation and movement of the feet, the Bakia game will get stuck so that it will affect the speech sport instrument. In sport activities in this game, it is very necessary to have coordination and speed to walk. And then the third game, it's called Egrang. Egrang is a game that requires bamboo. In Indonesia, there is a lot of bamboo which can be used as raw material for Egrang in traditional games. The character's values in this Egrang game include the independence. And then the next game, it's called Sreng. Sreng is the traditional game with the requires a circular iron and a hook between the circle and the hand. Sreng prioritizes the value of independence coupled with hard work and very high effort. Because in this game, the elements of sport that are needed are balance, speed, and hand coordination. The last game is Lari Balok or Block Run. This game requires 4 blocks for each individuals. Walks by crouching and has to replace block every time he steps. Block running really requires speed, coordination, and accuracy to keep going forward until the finish day. And then going to the conclusion. Traditional games greatly enhance sport activities and can promote good character values for school children. Traditional games at socialization were attended by 150 children who were divided into 3 groups of various ages, including 3 until 12 years. Every game post is always followed by the children with enthusiasm, and the absence of fighting during the game shows that character values in children have started to appear. The games include Serok Mancung, Bakia, Egrang, Sreng, and Lari Balok in the field of traditional games to be a very fun game. Togetherness and character values are more prioritized, where they enjoy the game by loving when playing in groups rather than playing with smartphones, which are played individually. The cultivation of these character values is highly prioritized because for the sustainability of human resources in Indonesia, it will be very helpful, where most importantly, a high sense of nationalism will develop Indonesian culture. Traditional games must be continue to be played for the common good and towards individuals who are healthy, qualified, and have high integrity. Thank you. That's all my presentation about my closing. I am Zahra Citra Vanita, as Bachelor Sports student in Semarang State University. I'm here looking for friends, partner, or investor to keep making traditional games growing. Thank you.
To all the respected coordinators and my fellow participants, I'm Varsha Paul, doing my PhD from Rajiv Gandhi University, India. I'm here to present my topic, Stature of CSR Expenditure of Indian Maharatna Companies 8 years after mandatory spending, a case study of IOCL and ONGC. So here I go. Corporate social responsibility is a concept that helps companies to be socially accountable to its stakeholders, itself, and the public. Companies aim to contribute towards the well-being of the society and the environment. India is the first country to make CSR mandatory on 1st April 2014. Uh, okay. This act requires the companies with a net worth of 500 crores or more and a net profit of 5 crores or more to be they should have 5 crores or more and only then they should be it's a compulsion for these companies to show their CSR expenditure in their annual reports. And for this, the purpose of this study, I have taken two Maharatna companies known as Indian Oil Corporation Limited and Oil and Natural Gas Corporation into consideration for this study. So my objectives are to analyze the growth or decline in CSR spending by the companies, to find if there is any relation between both the company's CSR expenditure pattern, and to analyze if the CSR expenditure of the companies are influenced by the time. Okay. My first hypothesis is there is no significant relationship between the CSR spending pattern of IOCL and ONGC. My second hypothesis is there is no significant relationship between the change in time and CSR expenditure of both the companies. For this study purpose, I have taken the secondary data of the IOCL and ONGC from the year 2014 and 15 and to 2021 and 22. And I have used correlation and regression analysis. And for this, time is taken as an independent variable and CSR expenditure is taken as a dependent variable. Hence, my results are since the average growth or decline of the CSR expenditure is calculated over 8 years, IOCL has shown 23.06 crores on an average growth in INR, and ONGC has shown contribution of about 188.97 crores on an average. So it shows that as both the companies, both IOCL and ONGC are Maharatna companies, but still IOCL shows lesser figures related as compared to ONGC. ONGC CSR contribution has more growth on an average each year, and that is much more than IOCL. So the company ONGC's commitment and contribution towards social activities is way more than IOCL. Also, the correlation between the two companies' CSR spending pattern is not statistically significant at 5% level of significance, which shows that both the companies' spending pattern are not at all influenced by each other, and they are not at all competitive in case of the CSR strategy that they are following, and they have completely independent CSR strategies. Also, after conducting the regression analysis, we see that in case of IOCL, as the p-value is less than the standard level of significance, we can conclude that the CSR expenditure of IOCL is not at all influenced by the change in time period. So it means that the CSR expenditure is not at all related to the time, and it is not possible for IOCL to make future predictions in their future CSR expenses. Also, in case of ONGC, as the p-value is less than the standard, more than the standard level of significance, we can say that the CSR expenditure of ONGC is very much influenced by the change in time period, and there is no stationarity, which means that we can somewhat make predictions of the CSR expenditures for the future. So I can conclude that both the companies are putting in great efforts in the various areas of corporate social responsibility, Yet, much more thrust is needed as the companies are spending only a small amount, that is 2% of their net annual turnover and profit towards the socially committed activities. So it is required that they spend more towards the society and the environment. Hereby, I conclude my presentation. Thank you so much.
Haji Faisal bin Ahmad from Malaysia, Melaka, Malaysia, from Polytechnic Merlimau, Malaysia. Firstly, now I am in Mecca, never mind, and I was the presenter online. Firstly, this is my topic, Master Hajj, Creative Innovation Board Game towards Hajj Literacy among Polytechnic students. With my partner, TS Dr. Maria binti Muhammad, from also from Polytechnic Merlimau, Melaka, Malaysia. Okay, this is the topic. And then the introduction towards the development of various technologies nowadays, and then the various mediums and approach have been used to facilitate the teaching and learning process. The objective, first, provide convenience and understanding to students and the community, and able to increase the level of motivation of each individual involved by Ihsanul Amal 2022. And then the problem statement, however, techniques and ways how to umrah among students are not expected because they don't have experience. Money arrive to Mecca and can imagine location and process than the umrah. Student can answer question without simulation of Hajj and umrah. Various methods can be used to understand it, such as lecture techniques, lectures, game, and so on. But game techniques have been taken into account to highlight to students in order to facilitate the process of understanding and equipping oneself with this fifth pillar of Islam, and Ahmad K. Raza MS No 2022. And then the innovation, thus the innovation of Master Hajj was innovated from Saidina games or Monopoly games. The game approach same like Umrah and Hajj method and used buy and loss reward with halal, forbidden, communication, and macro. The game Master Hajj, it is simulated in educational learning approach and created and educated students to learn with informal approach in subject of Islamic education, focusing on the Hajj chapter. And the objective to propose Hajj game that is easier to understand between learning by reading and using books. To justify being created from interview session with 30 informants Master Hajj game, thereby improving understanding of the practice and work of Hajj. How to play Master Hajj? This is the first. For the Master Hajj game, the required equipment is firstly, mover to represent the player in the Master Hajj box several provided vessels, namely airplanes, helicopters, motorcycle, cars, and others. And then there are 6 paper straws instead of dice, like the code is Dadu. The card, camel and God reward card, Hajj card and purpose card in each game box. Master Hajj money, a game board with 40 squares. Research, the methods is research in qualitative approach with phenomenology design, analyze, design, developing, implementation, and evaluation. ADDI model are used to developing Master Hajj game. Interview semi-ended is distributed to 30 students, Muslim from the 3rd semester in Diploma in Tourism Management from one of Polytechnic Ibrahim Sultan at the Johor. And the finding objective, want to propose Hajj game that is easier to understand between learning by reading and using books. This the graph, the findings. You can see the red color and the blue color. Okay, and justify them created from interview session with the informal Master Hajj game. They were improving in understanding of the practice and work of Hajj. First, user friendly. This easy to play, easy like Saidina or Monopoly, and easy to manage too. Very enjoy. I like play again, play with joy and not boring, and I want to go to Hajj. Is the motivation. The three, the knowledgeable, play with learn informal, have regulation, must have money, careful with all rules, easy to get, with game, get knowledge, and have 30 steps. The conclusion, the impact of this innovation, students understand the simulation with location, regulation with subject of Hajj, and how to score after interview among 30 students in semester 3 who take their Islamic subject from for semester 3 in topic Hajj with simulation master Hajj game. This the kemudian ada soal pemain mengambilkan ganjaran atau kambing yang bernilai 450 rial sebagai ganjaran. Pemain yang melepasi kotak gula akan menerima sertifikat. Pemain yang mendapat dan yang paling banyak adalah dikira sebagai pemenang. Sekiranya pemain menang, mereka dikira lulus. Okay, that's all. Then thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Faisal, for your wonderful presentation. Nice research work. Good topic of creating interest towards Hajj. Please do share your details out there in the chat box.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to be among the rest of the presenters. I'd like to start by introducing myself. My name is Amani Salmin. I'm a lecturer at Jubail Industrial University in Jubail Industrial City in Saudi Arabia. It's located in the eastern province of Saudi Arabia, and I'd like to share with you a very interesting topic to me personally, and it is the reason why I've decided to explore it in a paper, as well as I'm hoping it will be an interesting discussion, especially that I'm coming from a humanity background. The title of my paper is Crossing the Boundary of Humanity, and it is a post-human reading of Cinder by Marissa Mayer, which is a novel that I have read, and it was the subject of my study. Please note that the use of the term crossing the boundary of humanity here is figurative rather than literal, and I will explain this in detail, inshallah, in the next slides. I will cover briefly an introduction of my paper. I'll explain the problem of the study. I'll touch upon the methodology. I'll also explore the definition of posthumanism, along with some key concepts, and I'll summarize the main points of my paper. Please take a look at these two photos. You can, in the first photo, there is a picture of Mr. Neil Harbison, and as you can see an implant an antenna implant in his head, which he has asked his doctor in 2004 to implant in his head as he's suffering from color blindness. And this antenna allows him, in a way, to hear color, which calls, into mind the case of synesthesia, which allows a person to experience one sense over the other. So here we have this fusion of the human body and technology. On the other, in the other picture, that's the second figure, there's a picture of Mr. Rickard Norman, a Sweden gentleman who had lost his arm in an electrical substation injury. And as a result, he had a prosthetic arm. The first one was insufficient for him, and it was replaced by another one that was connected to his limb. And according to his words, it is now a part of him. What I'm exploring in my research is the post-human subject. Namely, it is the fusion of the human and the machine. The study I've conducted deals with the depiction of the post-human.
Sorry for interrupting. Your slides are not moving. We can just see the first slide of your title.
Only the first one? Oh, sorry.
Yes, yes.
Let me try again. Is this better?
Yes, now it is moving. I can see the second slide and third slide.
Okay, khalas, I'll keep it like that. Thank you. So my study deals with the depiction of the post-human, and I know this term post-human sounds a little bit dramatic or post-apocalyptic, but it's not that at all. It is mainly a term that we use in literary studies and cultural studies to describe the fusion of the human and the machine. There are also different representations of it. And the best example that I found is in Marissa Mayer novel, Cinder, as well as, the resulting power struggle, prejudice, and class discrimination that we see in the novel. The novel is titled Cinder, and it is the first installment in the Lunar Chronicles. And it introduces a futuristic world where the human beings are struggling against the evolved human beings, the evolved humans who are detached physically from Earth. And it also explores a future where prosthetics are perfected, leading to stronger humans. The methodology I've used is closed reading, which is basically a technique that was implemented by the new critics, which is a school of criticism that is used to find or uncover unity and tensions in texts. And the theory of posthumanism is applied in the selection and examination of theoretical and descriptive materials in the paper. So what is posthumanism exactly? Posthumanism is a term that we use under the term of transhumanism, and it is used to, as I mentioned earlier, describe the fusion of organic matter and inorganic matter, the fusion of the human and the machine. Of course, it is discussed among several theorists, but I'm not going to go that into detail because of the time allocated for this presentation. However, there are some key concepts that we need to understand, that posthumanism does not disregard humanism entirely. We have the term post, and once we see post, which means, after, some people assume that it's different from humanism. Humanism, that is the philosophical concept that deals with human exceptionalism and anthropocentrism. But posthumanism challenges this concept in the sense that it tries to eliminate the hierarchy between the human and the non-human, represented by the cyborgs, for example. So in this paper, I discussed the posthuman subject and discourse and ways of looking at the post-human and the possible implications that come from a future of scientific and technological advancements. The findings in my research provide evidence that the novel explores different representations of the post-human. A hierarchy is created within the novel that privileges the lunars who have evolved in the novel to be able to manipulate electromagnetic waves as a result of being detached from Earth, which is actually in line with the French philosopher's proposal or theory that he mentions in his book Postmodern Fables, Jean-Francois Lyotard, in which human beings or human consciousness survives after the sun explodes. So he proposes a scenario where, life is no longer possible on Earth, but he proposes that we will be able to live, or at least our consciousness will be able to live through various ways. And the way that is proposed in the novel is through being detached from Earth and developing some sort of or undergoing some physical evolution. And then it's followed by humans. And according to the definition of many theorists, the very idea that we are receiving information and we're exchanging information through machines, through technology, through computers, and we're accepting that makes us post-human. So by that definition, and I would like to, if you allow me to refer to an earlier presentation today that I found interesting and in a way similar to this notion that we are creating, all of these images and paintings through the use of artificial intelligence. That in itself makes us post-human, because we're producing all of these things that were usually associated with us having the, the faculty of imagination and several human capabilities. So for that definition, the humans in the novel ascribed to being post-human, the cyborgs, as I've mentioned, and androids having artificial intelligence, as well as being sentience, as we can see in the novel, as they are able to feel, they are able to communicate, regardless of how they look like. So the protagonist in the novel is called Cinder, and she's a good example of a post-human subject. She starts as an underprivileged citizen. She's a cyborg, and she's also an heir to the lunar throne, which results in challenging anthropocentrism, which is usually associated with humanism, and stressing out the position of the cyborg in a post-human world. And lunars and androids offer an insight into possible states of being. And this hierarchy is deconstructed by examining different representations of the post-human. I would like to shed some light on androids, especially in the novel. In the book, When Species Meet by Donna Haraway, we find her focusing on companion animals. In the case of the novel, we see it in the form of androids, the machine, and through the interaction between the characters and the machine, we see the evolution of their culture. Cinder, the protagonist, mimics the master-slave dynamic of the human and the animal in the book, and her self-consciousness is realized through both her work and her relationship with her android Echo, which helps her, and is her friend. What is interesting is that Echo is equipped with a personality chip, and this is a code that I've taken from the book. She comments on the idea of going to the junkyard. She says it sounds dirty and stinky. And how would you know? Cinder asks her, you don't have scent receptors. So she replies, I have a fantastic imagination. So the fact that she has this ability to appreciate and understand nonverbal communication challenges anthropocentric notions. Just to sum up my main points, posthumanism challenges the binary opposition that is created by through that privileges the human over the non-human. In this scenario, in the novel scenario, it is the human versus the machine, and it explores it through different representations that are discussed in the paper. Thank you very much for giving me the time and for listening to my presentation. If you have any question, you can feel free to ask. Thank you again.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Hello everyone, I am Kajita Fikirahi. Today I will be presenting on my paper an empirical analysis of different protein folding model algorithms on cytokine protein structure. This paper was authored by myself, Swapnil Sharma Sarkar, Raufun Philip the group team, Anika Tasnimari, and supervised by Professor Dr. Shamina. These are the contents that I will be talking about: introduction, related work, research objective, and so on. Proteins are made up of amino acids. The protein folding problem aims to clarify how a protein's 3D structure is determined from its amino acid sequence. 3D structure of a protein determines how it functions, if it's misfolded or not, and so on. Cytokines are a special type of protein that has a lot of functionality in the immune system. It aids in the response of infection, inflammation, promote growth of additional immune cells, and so on. It is of particular interest because of its medical significance. There are various methods that can predict the 3D structure of a protein. Among these methods, relying on deep learning models like AlphaFold 2, OmegaFold 2, ESM-fold are quite recent and work faster than traditional methods. Recent studies of these deep learning methods include benchmark studies on nanobodies, comparative studies of ESM2 and Swiss model, protein complex evaluation using AlphaFold 2, and more. However, there has not been a study that analyzes the performance of these models on cytokines. So in this work, we assessed how well these models perform at predicting cytokine structure. So in the paper, a benchmark study of protein folding algorithms on nanobodies bioinformatics, AlphaFold 2, RosettaFold, NanoNet, DeepAB, these models were compared in different regions of nanobodies. It has been observed that AlphaFold 2 performs overall best. DeepAB performs best in VHS region. However, there is a certain randomness in each of DeepAB's prediction. Then NanoNet can only predict position of C alpha atoms, and it has the highest score in VHS, CDR1, and CDR3 region. In the next paper, benchmarking AlphaFold of or protein complex modeling reveals accuracy determinants. They compared AlphaFold to CollabFold, which is an implementation of AlphaFold that uses ML sequence 2 for MSA server and ZDoc performance for protein complexes. It has been observed that AlphaFold 2 and CollabFold has the similar performance and performs better than ZDoc. Another paper, benchmarking AlphaFold for protein complex modeling reveals. Another paper, protein folding problems, a comparative analysis of ESM2. Compares deep learning based model ESM2 and homology based Swiss model. For the benchmarking process, they used web services, Expressy for Swiss model and ESM2 API for ESM2. They also used a Python library, Ramachandra, to plot heat maps for comparison. It was observed that ESM2 performed better. Now to our objective. Our objective is to apply different protein folding models on cytokines protein sequences, then to evaluate their performance based on different scoring metrics, and then to investigate any anomalies that were detected during the benchmarking process. The models we will be using in this study are AlphaFold 2, OmegaFold, and ESM-fold. AlphaFold 2 uses a technique known as MSA, multiple sequence alignment, to find similar structure of the given input sequence. This is found out using EvoFormer. The EvoFormer consists of 48 blocks of neural networks. Then 8 blocks neural network is used to create a final structure from the input sequence. On the other hand, OmegaFold has 3 neural networks. It doesn't use any MSA. It has its first block is called protein language model. Second one is GeoFormer, and third one is structure model. Then the ESM-fold, it uses a modified version of EvoFormer, which is used in AlphaFold 2. Other blocks are similar to AlphaFold 2. Second one is called holding trunk, which also includes 48 blocks of neural networks and 8 blocks for structure module. Our methodology is quite simple. First, we collected the protein sequences and their structure information from protein data bank. We provided the sequence file as input to the models, which in turn generate the structure information. Then we compared the original structure information and predicted structure information and analyze their result based on RMSD, TM score, GETTS, GETH, and computational time. In the result, it was found that AlphaFold 2 performs with the highest TM score, and also standard deviation of scores in AlphaFold 2 was lesser than others, which means AlphaFold 2 was the most precise model. One thing to note here is RMSD value. For RMSD values, lower is better, and for other scores, higher is better. Which implies that their algorithms are similar in nature. It is to be noted that ESM fold takes about 12 to 15 seconds on average per protein sequence, and protein sequence with length 900 was excluded due to our hardware limitation. Omega fold takes about 40 to 50 seconds on average per protein sequence, and AlphaFold takes the highest time in the list, about 4 to 5 minutes on average. Our implementation of AlphaFold 2 uses sequence 2 for MSA instead of its default jackhammer, and large protein sequences, which has length more than 400 amino acid, takes around 30 minutes to complete. Now, in the dataset, we use some of the cytokines perform very poorly. The poor performing cytokines belong to chemokine subfamily of cytokines. Chemokine subfamily also consists 4 subgroups, in which all of the poor performing cytokines belong in CC subgroup. Now, CC subgroup contains of 27 groups, CCL1 to CCL28, and we ran another benchmark for every one of those groups, and it was noted that CCL5 and CCL19 performs very poorly. Their TM score is below 0.5, which implies that these models are not suitable at all for folding protein structure of CCL5 and CCL19. To conclude our study, we successfully implement AlphaFold 2, OmegaFold, and ESM fold on different cytokines protein and assess their performance. Judging from the score, AlphaFold 2 performs with higher accuracy, but ESM fold performs very competitively if we factor in how fast it predicts. There were some protein sequences where the models performed very poorly. Those protein belongs to CCL5 and CCL19 group, and their predicted structure are unusable as their score is below 0.5. In future, we will be exploring the protein folding models on 7 protein clusters. The clustering will be based on their 3D structure. We will also increase the number of models to enrich our analysis. These are the references that I used in my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Qazi Tawfiq, for your wonderful work, good research work.
My name is Nida Platin. I'm from Turkey. I'm a PhD student in Marmara University, and also lecturer in Munzur University. So the title of my study is The Role of Business Network on Internationalization Performance of Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises in Turkish Furniture Industry. You can see my email address under my name, and also I can share it afterwards. And the purpose of this study is derived from my PhD thesis proposal, the title of the moderator effect of risky investment intention and international opportunity recognition on the relationship between business network and internationalization performance. I'm going to share a little part of my thesis proposal. So aim of the study is to examine of the role of the subdimensions of business network on internationalization performance. We used quantitative method, and we reached about 160 valid questionnaire by using, and we used SPSS to test the hypothesis. We collected data from the SMEs that manufacture and export in Turkish furniture industry. This is my research model, and business network is the independent variable, and my dependent variable is internationalization performance. So the main thing is the business network in our study has 3 subdimensions. One is structure of network, contribution of network, and strength of ties of the network. So this as a business network is a set of relationships that binds one firm to other firms. So it can be defined as two or more interconnected business relationships, which refers to set of links. So the structure of the structure dimension, the structure of business network is defined as diversity of actors and quality of relationship between actors. So to measure this dimension, we asked about five questions with 5 Likert type, from strongly disagree to strongly agree. The questions, we ask questions such as, there are good relation among members, member shares information with each other, and the network interact with other business network, and the participant answered from strongly disagree to strongly agree. The second dimension is contribution of network, which is the existence of contribution of network defines the existence of collaborative relationship that provide access to information by building trust. So provides competitive advantage and access to new opportunities and international markets to SMEs. So we ask 11 questions for this dimension, such as the network explores international business opportunities, the network consults on how to enter new markets, the network enable us to deepen and strengthen our position in existing markets, the network provides us information about international markets, such as growth opportunities or customer preferences. The network provides access to government and local bureaucrats, and the participant answered again with 5 Likert type, from strongly disagree to strongly agree. And the last, excuse me. And the last dimension is strength of ties. And strength of ties is the combination of the amount of time and reciprocal services between SMEs. So we ask 3 questions like, how often do you attend events of network? Do you support projects of your network? And do you take active role in your network? The same they answered with 5 Likert sped from strongly disagree to strongly agree. To measure the internationalization performance. International performance generally measured with ratio of total sales to foreign sales to total sales of the companies. So we asked them their last 3 years with 7 Likert type, from strongly disagree to strongly agree. We ask questions such as, have you reached your turnover target that you set for your internationalization process in last 3 years? In last 3 years, do you have did you increase your the number of your customers, the number of your market, and have you reached your growth target in overseas operations in last 3 years? So to show the demographic features, we generally our participants were 47% of business owners, 44% of managers, and generally we made the participant of the data. Our participants are from Kayseri, Bursa provinces, where is the place that furniture industry is structured mainly in Turkey. To show the results, according to our regression analysis, Pearson correlation analysis, there is a positive significant relationship between all the dimension of business network and internationalization performance. But when it comes to multiple regression analysis, we can see that only strength of tie has significantly and positively predicts the internationalization performance. So in conclusion, the dimension of business network, which are structure of network, strength of tie, and the contribution of network, explain approximately 12% of the total variance in internationalization performance. As I said, we have found no significant relationship with structure of network and contribution of network on internationalization performance, but there is significant relation with strength of tie dimension of business network with internationalization performance. Thank you for listening. If you have questions, you can reach me from my email address under my name after the title.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
My name is Hongyi Chen, and I'm from Department of International Business, Soochow University, Taipei, Taiwan. The title of my presentation is Recycled Content Standards and Privatization in a Mixed Duopoly. Introduction. Since the 1990s, we have witnessed widespread presentation in many industries, including solid waste collection services, oil, steel, cement, electricity, and coal. The government usually adopts a variety of policies to reduce waste, including taxing, subsidizing, depositing reform systems, and implementation of recycled content standards. The recycled content standards require firms to use a certain percentage of recycled material as an input for the production of the final products. In the United States, 12 states and Washington, D.C. have mandatory recycled content standards for newspapers. And in Japan, the law requires that printing paper must contain 100% recycled papers and at least 10% of recycled content in use PET bottles must be used for copies and curtains. The features of this paper, the policy of recycled content standards in the context of mixed duopoly with vertically related markets, which upstream recyclers will produce recyclable materials. In the downstream, there's a public and a private firms purchase a certain percentage of recyclable materials as input from the upstream recycler to produce the final outputs. Downstream public firms will decide to privatize it or not. And we would like to examine how stricter RCS implementation by the government affects the output of final products, the profit of downstream firms, and the price of recycled materials by the mixed duopoly downstream firms. Here is the base models. Consider an industry, an economy consisting of a public firm and a private firms engaging cool competition for final goods. Firm 0 is a public firm and firm 1 is a completely private owned. According to the RCS regulations set by the government, each firm is required to use a mixture of recycled and virgin materials to produce 1 unit of final goods. And as in Higashida and Jinji 2006, virgin materials are imported from the rest of the world at a fixed price, WV, and the price of virgin materials is assumed to be lower than that of recycled materials. Since the cost of recycling materials from waste is high, firms have no incentive to use recycled material unless they are required to use them. And here is the marginal cost of producing 1 unit of final good. And when final goods are consumed, units of goods are wasted. If they are not recycled, they are dumped in landfills. And the total input of recyclable resources in the recycling sectors is theta times Q0 plus Q1, and the total observed waste is Z. The environmental damage is denoted as ED equals G times Z, where G captures the harmfulness, the marginal harmfulness of the waste. Game stage. The game between two downstream firms and the government consists of actually three stages of the game. In the first stage, the government decides the optimum level of RCS, and the second stage, two firms simultaneous to determine their input. Actually, in the first stage, government decide whether to privatize or not. Sorry. Here is the objective function. The profit of the two firms and the social welfare is in equation 3. Before privatizations, the public firm will maximize its social welfare, and the private firm will maximize profit. And the first order conditions of equation 4 and 5, and then solving them, we can get the output for each firm. And B, the superscript B denotes the case that firm 0 does not privatize. And here are some converted static results. Then based on these results, we have the proposition 1. As the ratio of RCS increases, the output of public firm and the output of entire market may decrease if the marginal harmfulness of waste is small. The impact of a stricter RCS on private firms' production is clearly negative. Then we back to the first stage of the game. And in the first equation 10 is the welfare functions. Then we would like to decide the optimal RCS ratios. And since the second order of theta with respect to social welfare is positive, therefore there is no interior solution for the RCS. Then we would like to know theta equals 0 and theta equal 1, which is have the higher social welfare. Then we find that if the G, the harmfulness of the waste is high, then the social welfare 2, SW2B, then if G is low, then the welfare becomes SW1B. And based on that, we have the proposition 2. When the public firm competes with a private firm, the optimal RCS ratio is 1 or 0. If the harmfulness of the waste is greater or smaller than the cost difference between the recycled material and virgin materials. And here are some the after privatization results and some comparative statistics. The major point is that two private firms compete in the market, then we can find a interior solution of the recycled content as follows. Then we have the proposition 3. After privatization, two private firms compete in the market. The optimal RCS ratio is 0 or 1 if the marginal harmfulness waste is small or large. But if in the intermediate level, then we can have the interior optimal RCS. Then here I will quickly go to the concluding remarks. In this paper, we find that before the privatization, if G is low, the optimal RCS ratio is 0, and the market structure consists of a mixed duopoly. When G is high, the optimal RCS ratio is 1, and the private firm exit the markets, and the private firm becomes a monopoly. After privatization, the optimal RCS is 0 or 1 if the G is small or large. However, if the G is at an intermediate level, there is an continuous optimal RCS. Finally, the government's privatization decision depends on the magnitude of the marginal harmfulness of waste. We find that when the G is large or small enough, the government chooses not to privatize the public firm, and the optimal RCS is 1 or 0. When the marginal harmfulness is at the intermediate level, the government will choose to privatize the public firm in combination of RCS policies. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Cheng, for your wonderful presentation. So nice. Please do share your email address in the chat box. We'll get in touch with you for future.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay.
I'm Dipayan. I'm doing my master's from VITP in data science. So today's topic is image captioning with text-based visualization. So at first we're going for abstract. So in many visual attention model lack of considering correlation between image and textual context, which may lead to attention vectors containing irrelevant annotation vectors. To overcome this limitation, we propose a new text-based visualization attention model, which focuses on certain silent objects automatically by eliminating the irrelevant information once gave previously generated in the text. To propose end-to-end caption generation model adopts the architecture of multimodal reluctant neural network. So multimodal reluctant network, recurrent neural network is designed for generally for novel image captions, which models consist of two subnetworks, a deep neural network for the sentences and the deep convolutional network for images, which interacts with each other. So moving on to the introduction. So generating image captions in sentence level has become an important task in computer vision. While this task seems easy for human beings, it is complicated for machines, not only because it is should solve the challenges to recognize which objects are in the image, and it needs to express their corresponding relationship in a neural network. However, this template-based methods generated sentence form determine the sentence dataset, which imposes their limits on variety. To overcome this limitation, two categories of methods are proposed. First one joins the language and image model into the same multimodal space, which we are using in this paper. And the second is relies on classical encoded decoded architecture in neural network mechanism translation, which leverage images attributes on region attention as the extra input to LSMT decode and decode for better performance. So LSMT is long short term memory is which is an artificial neural network, and it is used for deep learning and AI based things. So here is our model architecture. So in this figure, we can see that we have proposed a TVVA model, which is based on classical end-to-end RNN architecture, which are 5 layers on which are 5 layers. One is two embedding model, one recurrent model, one multi-model, and one softmax model. Two embedding model learns to dense the embedding feature for the each word in the vocabulary. The other of the two embedding model layers is input for both recurrent and the multi-model. We use the CNN to extract visual features. Different from mRNN, we adopt the attention mechanism, which is used as one of the inputs for multi-model layer. With the progress generating each word, TVVA can capture the all attention that changes to reflect the relevant part of the image. The input of our model are image and corresponding sentences description word. The word L here represents the sentences in the TVVA, which is one of the input of the multimodal layer. We add a start sign to all the training sentences. The word generated by computing the probability distribution given in the previous text. So this slide is going to show us the transported weight sharing process. So here the matrix forms and so here in matrix transforms UW, the one hot word vector into 1024 dimension vector, in which the meantime the role of the matrix is to decode the 2048 dimension dense multimodal vector back to one hot vector. The total number of parameter in this two matrix is 1024 n plus 2048 n. To reduce the number of parameter, what we can do, we can decompose the um vector into two matrices. And after that, the most important part, the training of data set. So here we are basically training the mRNN. So here we purposely in standard measure for evaluating the language model, the perplexity for one word sequence, which is W1 is to L, is calculated with this following equation, and we adapt the average log likelihood cost function given context words in the corresponding images plus regularization term, which can be expressed as the equation given below. So here n is the size of vocabulary. Ns is the number of sentences in the training set, and li denotes here is the length of the ith sentence which we are using, and the theta here is a model parameter. So here we are basically comparing our model with different model. So here we can see that our model performs the best among all the models. So this our model is best performing model among all this. So here are some example. As you can see in this example B. Example B, you can see this. If we train this picture and some sentences, so if you give this output, so in that if we give this in input, so in output here we can in output we can see a sentence which is would be a group of young men playing a game of frisbee. So like this, we can see many examples here. So in conclusion, in this paper, we propose a novel TVVA model for image captioning, which can eliminate the irrelevant attention annotation vector to focus on determined salient object automatically. And we leverage the transported weight sharing scheme, which boosts the image captioning performance by reducing about 20 million parameters. And the data set we are validating here is MS Coco and Flickr 30K dataset. Thank you.
Thank you for your wonderful presentation.